to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Alexa Bartels and Ben Gustafson. Alexa and Ben are newly elected leaders of the Darden Student Association, and I recently caught up with them to talk more about their background, their decision to pursue an MBA, what led them to Darden, how their career goals have evolved over the course of their first year, their plans for the DSA, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. As always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to the Experience Darden podcast so you never miss an update. And remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. And now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Alexa Bartels and Ben Gustafson. Ben, Alexa, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Well, it's great to have you here. How's everything going? Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Right now, we just officially took over in our positions starting today. So it's real busy time, real exciting time, and just making the most of it.
Alexa, how are you doing?
Good. Same sort of thing. Today is our first official day, April 1st, as DSA president and executive vice president. We can't imagine a better way to be spending it than with you, Brett, on this podcast.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out. The first half of the conversation, our listeners know this. We'll talk a little bit more about you and what got you to Darden. And in the second half of the conversation, we'll talk about the Darden Student Association. And I know it's early. It's just your first day on the job. I'm not going to ask you to have a big platform statement, but just maybe some things you might be thinking about as you think about the year ahead. So Alexa, I'll come to you first. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and your background.
Yeah. So my name is Alexa Bartels. I grew up right outside of Philadelphia before coming down to the University of Virginia for my undergraduate degree. I was a double major in chemistry and public health here, graduated from the university, go Who's, in 2021. I then moved to Indianapolis, where I worked in frontline pharmaceutical manufacturing in the quality assurance space for insulin manufacturing lines. So I always said when the line was calling, I was coming. So all hours of the day, roughly 360 days a year. I kind of started to realize that I wanted to have larger strategic actions in my professional career and not band-aid like solutions. And for me, that meant coming to get my MBA. I was lucky enough to apply to the Future Year Scholars Program right out of my UVA undergraduate experience. So I always knew that I had an opportunity to come back to Darden. And I hit a point at my time in my pharmaceutical career that it seemed like a good fit. And so now I'm back here as a first year.
Yeah, the Future Year Scholars Program is a pretty awesome opportunity. You apply when you're in your final year of study as an undergrad, or perhaps if you have no work experience when you're in your master's program in your final year of study. But you apply, say you get in, you have that Darden offer kind of in your back pocket as you go forward in your career. And somewhere between 2 to 5 years into your career that you can come back and start business school. It's a pretty incredible opportunity.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for me. Someone with a chemistry major and a public health double major. I hadn't really considered business school until I got an email from the admissions office here at Darden that said, hey, we look for candidates who aren't from a finance degree to get their MBA. And luckily, I was able to get an application turned around rather quickly and able to apply. And it's really awesome because Ben and I are actually both future year scholars, and fun to have experience as double Who's together as well as the Future Year Scholars Program.
Well, Ben, tell us a little bit more about you. We know a little bit about you from Alexa's introduction, but tell us more about who you are and your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ben Gustafson, and like Alexa just mentioned, we actually have a pretty similar background before Darden. I'm also double Who, also graduated class of 2021. I double majored in statistics and commerce. And then between graduating then and coming back to Darden, I've actually been in Charlottesville the whole time, working as a marketing manager for a medical device manufacturer in town. And my primary product line that I worked with was used for endoscopic carpal tunnel release surgery. So similarly to Alexa and similarly to what you highlighted, I thought there's a lot of value in a program like the Future Year Scholar Program, where you could have that deferred application and sort of the security or the planning of knowing that you're going to get your MBA in a few years, you know where you're going to go to get it. Just that certainty was appealing to me because I came out of undergrad knowing that an MBA was definitely something I was interested in. I didn't know exactly when I'd be ready to get back into school and find myself back on grounds, but I knew that I ultimately wanted to uh, pursue it to contribute to my career growth. And having had a great experience in UVA undergrad, I knew that Darden was a place where I would feel at home and get a really quality education. And so I was excited to apply into the Future Year Scholar program and know I was going to be back here on grounds.
I'm curious how you figured out when was the right time to come back to school to start your MBA program. Ben, how did you figure that out? You mentioned you weren't sure when, when you're obviously going through the future year process, but at some point you make the decision, okay, I think it's the right time. How did you figure that out?
Yeah, I think for me, I knew that I wanted at least a few years of work experience under my belt before I turned around. I didn't want to do it like at the first available opportunity. I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity at work to pursue a variety of projects through my team and be able to get those experiences before coming back into the case method and being able to have something to share with my classmates. Um, and I was able to, get promoted at work, get some meteor experiences, and had felt at a point that, okay, I think I'm ready to sort of take that to the next level after having gotten some good early career growth. Then I can come get my MBA and sort of accelerate that growth as I move on to future opportunities in my career.
Alexa, how did you figure out your timing? How did you know it was the right time? Come back to
Yeah, I
Darden.
think for me, there were similarities and differences for sure. I think part of it obviously is kind of timing at work and some HR movement that made sense for me. Instead of starting another job or another opportunity to get that company to go and get my MBA. So part of it was kind of HR planning timing. I think for me, the things that I was growing frustrated in my previous work, I knew in order to become unfrustrated in, I needed to go back to school. And I had kind of hit a point where I really wanted to look longer term and I didn't have a strong enough toolkit to do that. And I think a huge thing for me was going with my gut. I had a lot of different awesome mentors telling me different things, but ultimately for me, going with my gut and knowing that I was ready to have time for real reflection of what I wanted to do for my longer term career and have 2 years really focused on growing my toolkit. I think all of the combo of those things drove me to come back now.
You get to Darden. You're a brand new first year student. Well, what was the adjustment like in those first few months of your MBA program, Alexa?
Yeah, it was funny because obviously Ben and I have been students at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville before, and I didn't knew that it wouldn't be the exact same, right? And I knew that our classes would be smaller. I went here for undergraduate, where my first class ever as an undergraduate was a 500-person chemistry class, and now I'm in a section classroom with 70 people. I also graduated from a very small all-girls school from high school, so that was 70 people. So I had these like really cool academic experiences that meshed into my section classroom here. The balance can be challenging, right? You're meeting new people, you're figuring out what your new life is like in Charlottesville. You don't have an income, which you've been having for a while, right? Theoretically. And, you're also balancing this idea of what are you going to recruit for? Why did you come to get your MBA? And what are the kind of strategic actions that you can have in your recruiting journey to get your internship for next summer? And I think that balance took a while for sure. But it was also one in which you learned a lot about yourself. Ben and I also, and you'll probably hear from Ben more about his journey and starting at Darden, but we were both in section leadership, which were incredible opportunities to be the voice of the people. We were in different sections. I was in section B, where I was the section representative, really acting as the liaison between the section at large and the administration, communicating with our professors, as well as cultivating this culture and community that was fruitful for everyone to learn in. And so it was a balance for sure at the start, and took time to find that balance, but it was one that was organized chaos and a lot of fun.
Ben, how about for you? What was the adjustment like to being a Darden student?
Yeah, so When I was an undergrad at UVA in the undergraduate business school or in the commerce program at McIntyre, they also use the case method for their classes. So I had some familiarity of conceptually what classes were going to look like. You'd read a business case, hear about a real life scenario that impacted some company with a focus on the accounting aspect, the finance aspect, the marketing, and then coming together to discuss it with your peers. I think what was a really fascinating and interesting difference for me was the fact that now everyone has had, these storied careers and different work experience. Undergrad, obviously some people had like internships or different experiences in that sense, but it is really enriching to come into the classroom after you've read the case and thought about it a little bit of, well, is this anything like that similar to what I've worked with before? And then hear from people who have been in that industry or have worked in this function that you frankly have never thought about from where you sat in your previous career. And so that has been a really interesting and super beneficial part of the classroom setting for me, is just getting to hear those varied perspectives. To Alexa's point, it's always a challenge to get everything done. You've got plenty of cases to read. Recruiting, obviously, it takes up a lot of our mental focus throughout the first 2 quarters, especially, and just figuring out what the right opportunity for you is post MBA. And then just a whole lot of fun stuff too. We have the Darden Cup events through the Darden Student Association, where you get to come together as a section and have a bit of friendly competition with each other. There's different social events. Either every Thursday we have cold calls and come together as a university, or come together as a Darden community rather. On the weekends, we might take, have a winter ball, for example, in the winter time. And so there's just always a lot going on. And, it's a busy feeling a lot of the time, but it's a good kind of busy. It feels nice to be in a place where there is always something going on, and you never are sitting around bored. You've always got something fun to do.
And what section were you? Alexa
I
mentioned she was
was
section B.
I was in section C, yeah, and I served as review coordinator for my section. So every quarter, each of the classes we're in hosts exams, as you might expect, and so there's elected positions to help coordinate review efforts for those exams, create study materials or slide decks to go over with your classmates to make sure everybody feels comfortable going into those exams. And so I worked with Alex Alstrom in my section to get those put together and make sure everybody felt ready for test time.
He's being humble. He's very, very smart.
Well, I can say this is the first time we've had a review coordinator on the podcast. At least to my knowledge, we've had other section leaders on the podcast. So I was so interested in hearing about this. The first I've heard about it. So what attracted you to that role?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to do something with section leadership. And there's a wide variety of roles that students could, sort of volunteer or run for within the section, from like Alexa did at the section representative, to being a representative for international students, being a career center liaison to help people with their recruiting journeys. So there's a lot of good options to take on if you're looking for that sort of leadership experience or looking to get more involved with your section and your classmates. I thought review coordinator would be a good fit for me, both because I had prior experience with the case method at undergrad at McIntyre, so could sort of speak a little bit to what an exam for a case-based class might look like, so to speak, and how to think your way through those sorts of problems in an exam setting. And I had done tutoring previously for, from high school and college. I've had some experience, being able to take classroom material and try and explain it in different ways or otherwise make it a bit less complicated than it might feel as you're staring at the blackboard in class. And so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to run for the position, something to try out. And I'm really happy I did, because I thought it was just a really fulfilling experience to be able to give back to your classmates in that way, like provide those opportunities for students who might not be as comfortable with finance concepts, with all of the Excel stuff in decision analysis. I'm a big Excel fan, so I love chatting about X lookups and whatnot. And just was also a good opportunity to like get closer to the professors in the section too, and get to hear a little bit about how they think about the course, and have those one-on-one interactions with them when preparing the study materials.
Alexa, obviously full plate as a first year student. How did you decide that you wanted to add like section leadership on to your plate?
Yeah, I think for me, like Ben, I immediately connected with the people in my section and saw it as an opportunity to get to know everyone in my section inherently. I think, honestly, I often reflect on my undergraduate experience at UVA, coming out with amazing friends, amazing experiences, but sometimes feeling as though I didn't impact the community in the same way as that I wish I could have. And this was an opportunity to do that. I was humbled that people thought that I could be a good section representative or section leader. And this idea that I could be a collective voice for our section and ultimately also get things done. Make sure that our section was doing and meeting the things that we needed to meet, while also having fun while doing it. And I think when I think of the section representative position, and this isn't great for a podcast, but I always just kind of put my hands together, like you mush all of the people together. And in our classroom, it's, this multiple row type of environment that's circular, and we're all spread out, the 70 people. But if I think about kind of our classroom and how we work over the 3 quarters, we just get closer and closer and closer until we are truly this one sort of unit. And so to be a section leader and to be someone who has impact while doing that was an easy decision for me, knowing that I would have this full plate for sure, but ultimately coming to Darden, facilitating community, impacting the community was one of my main goals.
So before we start talking about Darden Student Association and your new roles there, I want to talk a little bit more about your career goals and how they've evolved during your first year, or perhaps not changed. So Ben, your career interests, have they changed in your first year? If so, how?
I would say they have changed a little bit. So when I applied into the Future Year Scholar program, I was really set on CPG brand management, working in sort of that, straddling the line between marketing and general management and working for consumer goods. And I knew that many times a big part of that career path is getting your MBA. As I've come to Darden, I wanted to cast a wide net, while I'm here, make sure I'm seeing all the options that are available and really figuring out what's the best fit for me. So I looked not only at like consumer goods marketing, but marketing in healthcare, where I had been prior to Darden, to see if I still had interest in that industry or could find maybe different opportunities beyond medical device, maybe looking on the facility side or something like that. Looking at different general management opportunities that maybe aren't as close to marketing, but still offer an opportunity to flex that overall business muscle, bring in some analytical thinking, and just get a lot of experience running a P&L. And then I had also looked at tech, which is where I'll ultimately end up this summer, which hadn't really been on my radar prior to coming to Darden as much. But after seeing some of the presentations from the Tech Career Club and hearing about a little bit about how their recruiting process works and what sort of opportunities are out there, after some cases in particular in classes, and getting to hear a bit more about some of the companies and how they think about their culture and what the work that you do there, I thought there were some really exciting opportunities. And so I'll be doing an internship in product marketing management. I'll be in the Seattle Redmond area this summer, and just really excited to still have that marketing, still have an opportunity to bring a bit more of a general management mindset to the work that I'm doing, figuring out how you can coordinate within the business to satisfy customer needs, and doing something really different from what I had done before in swapping from a manufacturing oriented company to something more tech based, and getting a really great opportunity to learn something new and see how it works for me.
Alexa, how about for you? Have your career goals changed at all during your time here at Darden?
Yes, for sure. Kind of coming from pharmaceutical manufacturing, this 24/7 nature, at least for me, thought that I really wanted to be a leader, and I still do want to be a leader that has a large breadth of knowledge, not necessarily technical depth. I like to know a little bit about a lot of things. And then coming to Darden with this very strong pipeline of consulting, I thought, wow, like I want to be a consultant. That sounds super cool. I could have a generalist background and know a little about a lot of things. And it took one meeting with Janeth Gomez at the Career Center. I cannot speak more about her praises. One meeting with her where I was talking about how I really liked to be hands-on and see solutions, and basically my experience on the manufacturing floor, I just wanted somewhere else. And she said, Alexa, consulting is an awesome opportunity. It will always be there. But what you're saying is not necessarily most consulting firms. And I said, okay, where do I go next? And she pointed me to the marketing and general management club here at Darden, in which I really then started to reflect on what I liked a lot about my manufacturing experience. And I loved operations. I loved understanding trade-offs. Didn't necessarily think that I was married to staying in healthcare, but would love the opportunity to see another operational system and try to conquer it like I did in insulin manufacturing, which is when I came upon DaVita's leadership development program, their Redwoods program, which is where I'll be this summer, getting an opportunity to stay in healthcare closer to the patient than I was before, and working with a little bit more strategic actions than I was before. So still getting to stay in healthcare, but definitely took a windy path to figure out that the mainstream or the bigger path at Darden wasn't for me, and really going with what I love to do rather than maybe what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, I think that's an important lesson. It can be really easy to get pulled along with what everybody else is doing, or you see a big group going in one direction. You feel like, oh, well, maybe that's what I want to do. We try to remind prospective students of that all the time. And also, I think it's important for folks to hear how people's career interests do change, even during their first year. Because I think a lot of times when people are applying to MBA programs, certainly we ask in the application, what are you thinking in terms of your career goals at this time? But that at this time piece is a direct acknowledgement of the fact that, like, it's your interest now, but it may not be, 3, 4 months into your MBA program. You may have shifted entirely. And oh, by the way, after you go on that internship, it may continue to change. You may actually be recruiting in your second year, which is absolutely something that happens. So you have 2 years to figure this out, in terms of what you like to do after graduation, then of course a whole career afterwards. So let's talk more about the Darden Student Association. So Alexa, how did you decide that you wanted to get involved with the DSA?
Yeah, I think it was something that wasn't on my horizon originally. It was something that, after being section representative, definitely was talked about kind of amongst the leadership positions. But I think really what made me think about it was that people in my section who I wouldn't have initially thought would have suggested it to me. And so that it made me listen of what kind of leader I could be and what kind of leader I also could become through the Darden Student Association, and also the impact that I could make. And so once I was hearing these people ask me if I would consider, that was something to me that made me feel as though I could be an appropriate collective voice. I think it's something that I want to do, and you need that desire to run something like the Darden Student Association, because it is what Ben and I have come to learn is a big machine. We do a lot of things at Darden, and so it's something that it was definitely of interest, but I didn't necessarily consider it until the people around me pushed me towards it. And that really made me feel as though the Darden community is unmatched.
Ben, how about you? What led you to say, I want to get involved with the DSA?
Yeah, so the completely honest answer is I started thinking about it because Alexa asked me about it. She had already been thinking about running for president on her end, and reached out to me to see if I'd be interested in running as executive vice president on her ticket. Before that, I hadn't thought about certainly the president or EVP role. I was interested in doing leadership in my second year. I thought it was a really fulfilling part of my first year, but thought I would stay very similar to the review coordinator role. So looking at opportunities to get involved with the tutoring program or maybe be a VP of education for some other club out there. But when Alexa asked if I'd be interested, I thought about it. And I thought it would be a really great opportunity to stretch myself a bit, find opportunities in student leadership to have my hands on things that I'm not, as good at right now, or don't like have natural aptitude for, and see how I can grow as a student and as a leader, trying to tackle those challenges or those opportunities. And I just knew that Alexa and I think similarly. We work really well together. And so I just thought it'd be a really exciting opportunity to go for. And so far, I've been really happy that we decided to run.
So I know it's day one, but do you have any plans or goals for the DSA, like or like sort of big sort of platform ideas? So, Alexa, anything that you'd want to share here?
Yeah, I think there are many things what we have come to learn, right? It's one of those things where you don't know until you don't know. And so I think a huge kind of theme that Ben and I have founded, at least kind of talking to our board, is this idea of community cultivators. Really, the DSA is here to serve the community at large, and we're here to champion both students, but really organizations and the student body through initiatives and through kind of our ideals as students. So community cultivators, if I were to kind of give our 2-word motto, that's kind of what we're going off of throughout the year. I think another huge thing, though, is how can we execute and how can we define success throughout the year? DSA puts on beyond number of initiatives throughout the course of the year, and figuring out what works and what doesn't. Inherently, different DSA boards move the needle in different ways. And what's important to note is that the Darden community, I think the essence remains the same year to year. But what's important to find out when the new first years or the first years of the next year comes is what is the makeup and what is that community's need of that year. And so the Darden community year to year is always very strong, but what are the levers that we need to pull such that the DSA fulfills the need of the student body for the 2025-2026 school year?
Ben, what's exciting to you as you think about your role and looking to the year ahead?
Yeah, I think what's exciting to me is there's not only the big marquee events that DSA does that, those 1 or 2 big social events or big Darden Cup events that everyone gets excited for year over year. But there's also a lot of things that seem like small or, more day-to-day focused. But DSA runs for an entire school year. It's not just an organization that exists for 4 weekends out of the year. And so I'm really excited about finding the ways to maximize the value for our student body out of those small moments. Like if we have these small scale events for 50 students who would really appreciate it, we can really boost their Darden experience in the same way of the 600 students who come to some of our larger events. And so I'm really excited about thinking about at every level of scale, how can we make DSA the best servant to the Darden community as it can be.
A couple more questions for you before we wrap up. Alexa, just obviously we talked about the DSA and what's to come, but for you personally, what are you looking forward to in the months ahead?
Oh, wow. Well, at least for me personally, I think a huge thing is Ben and I to come into these new roles. It gives us an opportunity right now to transition with the current board to see what they've done and to see what we can be. I think on a personal front, I've always wanted to move to Denver, and I'm going to have the opportunity to do that this summer with DaVita. And it was a place that coming out of UVA undergraduate, I always said, I want to move to Denver. I want to move to Denver. And it's awesome to see that coming to fruition. And then kind of through the school year, we're excited for a new batch of students to come and to engage our first years. And I know Ben and I really owe a lot to our current second year class. And this idea that we could do the same for a new upcoming class this year is exciting.
Ben, how about for you? What are you personally looking forward to in the months ahead?
Yeah, I think I've got similar answers. On a personal level, I'm really excited to move over to the West Coast for the summer. I have never lived outside of the state of Virginia. I had that realization as I was putting together my travel plans, my housing plans for the summer. I was like, wait, wow, I've lived in just one state since I was 8 months old. And so I'm excited to get a new opportunity or a new day-to-day perspective, see a part of the country that I've only ever traveled to on vacation, and really try and build a new community there for myself. I'm also excited because there's a lot of other Darden students going to Seattle for the summer, so getting an opportunity to bond with them and make the most of our summer. And yeah, just excited to get working with our board. We've been doing prep over the past month and a half, just sort of getting the dominoes in line. And now that we're here on April 1st, we're ready to start knocking them over. So really looking forward to ramping up throughout the end of this school year, getting things all lined up during the summer, and then coming in hot in the beginning of the next school year, and just being ready to rock and roll from day one.
All right, well, last question. So, Ben, what's a piece of advice you would share with our prospective student listeners as they are thinking about their own MBA journeys?
Yeah, I think it is really valuable to stay flexible when you first get to your MBA program. Obviously, like you said, it's good to come in with a goal. I think you should apply into your MBA program with a goal that interests you and something that you could see yourself exploring. But I would not keep yourself so tightly tethered to that goal. If you get to your MBA program and you attend an info session, you say, wait, that company's really cool. Or you hear some of your classmates talking about their recruiting path, and you're like, I think I'd be a good fit for that too. I think having a goal or clear vision for what you are interested in your future career, and then exploring all of the different options that might satisfy those needs, even if they're not what you initially thought, is the most valuable way to take on the MBA experience and really learn what you want to do with your career after graduation.
Alexa, how about for you? What's a piece of advice you would share with our listeners?
All right, Brett, I think I have two, if that's okay. We'll see if they
That's
want
totally fine.
one, though. Okay, so the first one would be coming into Darden, kind of knowing what is most important to you. We talk a lot about juggling all of these different things, juggling all these different balls, and they keep throwing them in as you juggle more and more, and inherently balls are going to have to drop. And so what is worth holding on to, and what is worth willing to drop, whether that be they are picked up by other people, or whether that be they just kind of are on the ground for a little bit of time. So figuring out what is most important to you, because there are so many opportunities here and so many different career exploratory opportunities, academic opportunities, personal ones as well as social ones, that what is most important to you, please keep close. And the other thing, at least in terms of what to expect from Darden, is that there's going to be so many ways to push yourself. And I say that in an academic sense. I never thought I would have any sort of business acumen, and here I am having, I would say, a pretty good one after 2 quarters in core. I think also there are a lot of opportunities to push yourself on a personal front, and I say that having coaxed Ben into performing in a drag show with me at Darden, and something that I am not a good dancer. I am not someone to get on stage unless there's a podium, and even then I'm very nervous. But it was something that I did, and it was challenging for me to get up there, but was so cool to do. And that was something that I never thought I could do, before coming to Darden. And so that's just a little anecdote of many different personal experiences that the Darden community has given me throughout the course of the year, that at the beginning of the year, I would be like, I could never do that. And so my second thing is that expect to push yourself at Darden, but also to be pushed in that direction by the community in ones that really allow for self-growth.
Well, Alexa, Ben, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and congratulations again on your new roles. I can't wait to hear what y'all get up to in the coming year.
Thanks, Brett, for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That was my conversation with Alexa Bartels and Ben Gustafson, two first-year students in our full-time MBA class of 2026. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, it's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.